Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of To Make a Sound. We are back once again with another episode for y'all. And happy Halloween week. By the time we record this, by the time we upload this, rather, it's going to be a few days before Spooky Day, which is Halloween.
Yeah, I can't believe that we're almost to the end of October already. The days are going by too fast.
I know. Time has really, gone by, really fast. Is that thing that adults always say?
October,
just
I feel like October literally just started, last week. And now it's, the 23rd.
I know.
already.
It's weird. I know, it's weird. Yeah.
I feel like October is one of those months that goes by really fast because, nothing really interesting happens in October except until the end.
Well, and it's also just the fact that, as college kids, or not really kids anymore, we're just every month it just went by. I still feel like I'm I don't know. Time has just gone by way too fast for me. I still think I'm a freshman sometimes, but then I gotta remind myself, oh wait, I'm a sophomore. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm gonna be 35.
I still am a freshman, but I might get. I don't know if I'll have the same thing next year once I become a sophomore. I'll be like, oh yeah, I've already been in college for a year. 4 years seems like a long time until you actually, go through it, and you're like, wow, that was 2 days.
I mean, high school. I know you're homeschooled, but I'm gonna say for high school, it was the same thing where it's just 4 years just went by.
For me,
I feel
college is
regular even faster.
For me, at least, regular grade school dragged very slow because I've never been one to enjoy school. I don't like school that much at all.
Well, yeah, I'm the same way, but the time, it really did come and went super fast.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like it's different for everyone. So who knows?
Yeah, it kind of depends on how you look at
this. Anyways, moving on from that, to kick off the podcast, Steven, how's your college's football team doing?
Yeah, so
would you like to tell
about
us?
that. So, as most of you probably know, Saturday in the fall is college football day. That is no secret. So Auburn, the college that I go to, has a football team, obviously. But we played.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
We played a game last Saturday. It was the first game that I got to go to against an SEC team. For those of you who don't know, SEC is basically a conference that Auburn plays in, and conferences in college football are basically just groups of colleges that play against each other. So Auburn's in the SEC, and they play a couple teams from outside of the conference, but most of the season they play against teams that are in the conference. And usually those are going to be the biggest games. Anyway, we've had 4 conference games so far, but 2 of them were away, and I didn't get to go to one of them. So last Saturday's game was the one that I actually got to go to. It was against Ole Miss. Anyway, we lost. Kind of not a surprise. I was expecting that, but the main thing about it, the main thing that's so bad about it is how we lost, because their team was not really playing all that well, and we actually made it a pretty close game. The problem with Auburn's football team right now is their complete lack of a competent offense. And if you don't know anything about football, then I would just kind of ignore this part because it's probably going to get pretty technical. But Auburn does not have an offense. And it really showed in the Ole Miss game more so than any other game. And I think probably part of it was, I always talk about how, there's really no point in going to sporting events because you can just watch it on TV and you get the same effect. But the thing is, I don't have any TV services. I don't pay for any subscriptions that allow you to watch sports, so I have to listen to them on the radio is what I usually do, and the radio announcers do a pretty good job of describing what's going on, but they can't
they have to be good at describing what's going on.
Yeah, but there's only so much detail
I just
they
want to
can
point that out.
go into. So I think part of it was like actually being there and being able to see what was going on the field and what the players were doing. And when you're actually there to see that, you realize just how awful the offensive performance is from Auburn's football team. So, yeah, that's Auburn fans all over the internet are really upset about it. Not just because we lost.
What about people at your campus?
I haven't really heard anybody on the campus talk about it, but my parents and a lot of people on the internet, very upset. Not just because we lost, but because of how badly we played. So yeah, I'm very aware, Will, that Auburn sucks at football. It's no secret, okay? I think Will has left us. I think we've had some more technical issues.
And we're back, folks. We had tons of technical issues.
Will's Wi-Fi decided to die, just like mine did that one time down in the stream room, because Will's Wi-Fi sucks just as much as Auburn's does. Take that.
We're gonna start a war against the Wi-Fi companies for always allowing our Wi-Fi to be not perfect. Because yes. I am a firm believer in complaining about things not being exactly the way I always want them to be.
As you should be. So, we were talking about...
Gonna see that. Some people are going to see me say that and think I'm being serious and being like, what is he doing right here? He's just being an entitled Karen.
Disclaimer time. Everything that we say on the To Whom It May Concern podcast is entirely for satire and comedy purposes and not intended to be taken seriously.
Exactly. All right. So, speaking of stream rooms, by the way, Steven, you had some kerfuffle with your stream room today. You seem to have brought in a very realistic green screen that's taken up so much computing power. I think that's what's been messing up our Wi-Fi.
Hey, it was your Wi-Fi, not mine, okay?
I think that your computing power transferred over to my computing power and knocked out my Wi-Fi. That's exactly what happened.
I knocked out Will's Wi-Fi through the call by having too realistic of a green screen. No, but what actually
meanwhile, you're
happened,
in your gaming room. And
so what actually happened with the stream room was I do the reservation, right? I put a reservation, I go down there, and this time it wasn't the fact that somebody was in the stream rooms. No, the stream room was just locked. Like, the door was locked on it. And I actually tried both of them. They're both locked. And I've actually asked in the Discord chat that, like, that is related to the area where the rooms are. Nobody knows why that is. So, yeah, I went down there. That was a thing, and I was like, oh well, okay. Guess I just have to go back home and record the episode from my standing room.
They're just locked for no reason. Absolutely no reason.
I mean, there might be a reason, but as of right now, I don't know what that reason is. So, as far as I'm concerned, they're locked for no reason.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got mystery on our hands.
Yeah.
We gotta go. It's gonna be dope up in here. We gotta figure out what's going on. Who's doing nefarious acts in those locked rooms?
Who's trying to sabotage the podcast?
I swear, I just said something and then Siri came up all of a sudden. Like, I don't know why.
Would you like to hear some recommendations about mystery movies?
Alright, so that's essentially what happened with your stream room.
Yeah, so that's why I'm here and why this episode is not brought to you by HyperX. So
yeah.
Yeah. We actually like had an actual script this time, and I had on the script mention HyperX, do the thing. And
do your HyperX sponsorship that you don't get paid for.
Yeah, speaking of scripts, I finally started utilizing that document that I talked about last time that Will shared with me.
I'm gonna show a screen on the screen right now of what we got right here. What we got right here is essentially a Google Doc where we both get our topics together and then we order them out in order of what we talk about. I'm going to blur out the bottom half as to not spoil the rest of what we talk about, but just to
Yeah, we still have
give
some topics down there that aren't going to get covered today. But yeah, we basically started being a little bit more formal and organized about the topics that we cover, which will hopefully make this podcast a little bit more coherent in the future.
I will say it's organized. I'll say that, but I don't know if it's quite formal because 2.5 right here is just really like formal. I don't know. Figure it out.
Okay, it's not formal, but it is gonna help. It is gonna help with the podcast being coherent, as coherent as it can be with the two of us on it.
Yeah, I was about to say, is this really gonna help with people following along with what we're saying? Probably not.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's going to help us be on the same page. And also, on top of that, since I started using this ultra cool document that Will made, I'm starting to actually contribute my own ideas to the podcast. You know, the thing that I said I was going to do for like the past 4 episodes and haven't done, I'm finally starting to do that.
I don't know if my mic picked up all of my clapping, but I just went for applaud modes for Steven right there.
Yeah. I'm
graduated from his Hello Kitty games and is now finally a part of the conversation. I'm proud of you, Steven.
Yes, I'm being upgraded. I'm getting a promotion from Will's content slave to actually playing the role of an actual co-host.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. You're still not going to get paid anything. You're still a slave, but
yeah, I'm getting a pay raise of $0.
but I at least respect you. At least 1% more now.
I'm respected at least 1% more. I mean, 0% plus 1% is 1%, so I now have positive respect from Will.
Mathematics. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, you'll probably see some topics from me in some of the episodes going forward, and me just being a more significant contributor instead of just sitting here and kind of responding to whatever Will says. We're turning this into an actual podcast rather than Will tells Steven about things he doesn't know and then is shocked and appalled when Steven doesn't know what they are.
Yeah.
Like Scooby-Doo.
Basically, right now we're on the same page of what we're going to talk about, and it's less going to be about... Well, okay, it's still going to be about, like, pop culture type stuff that Steven is not going to know much about, but that's why I'm here to educate him, to make him smarter as well as everyone else smarter. That last part is an absolute lie. We are.
And I mean, I don't know if I'll be getting any smarter. I'll just be getting more cultured.
You'll just
one
know more.
podcast episode at a time.
You'll know a little bit more about stuff.
Yep.
That should at least compensate for the brain cells you lose.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to lose brain cells when there are none left. But anyway.
Big sad. Anyways, time for our first official topic. How long have we been going now? We've just been talking about like pre-topic stuff. Just like
we've got the first 20 minutes of the episode. Of course, we're probably going to cut out like a good 5 of that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For technical difficulties. Because Will's Wi-Fi decided to take a break on him.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi decided to just commit on live.
Yeah.
For a second, but then we revived it.
Yeah, we have.
That's the episode. Will's Wi-Fi commit on live.
Interesting story. I was like, Will was frozen on the screen for like a minute or so, right? And then he called. I'm like sitting here saying just random stuff, trying to wait to see if we'll reconnect. And then he calls me like on the phone, and he says, "Hey, yo, Steven, so yeah, my Discord just kind of died, so we're just gonna continue the episode like this. Just put your phone up to the mic, and we'll just continue."
Oh yeah, I'm gonna try that.
Because that totally wouldn't have been a complete disaster at all.
I mean, this episode's already a disaster. Here's the thing.
But this podcast
I
is
don't
a
know.
disaster.
This whole yeah, everything has just kind of been disastrous. Because here's the thing. I've just been having a very crazy month over at my college, just like taking care of a whole bunch of stuff. So we're not exactly going to be as coherent as we were in the past other episodes, but after like some like a Thanksgiving break or like a Christmas break, we'll hopefully be
Yeah, we need to have a special episode for Thanksgiving break where we do the Gatorade versus Powerade thing, among other
oh yeah,
things.
thank you for reminding me about that. We need to do that at some point.
We should throw that in the document.
Yeah, I'll get on that right now.
Yeah, Will's just going to be conducting business matters in the middle of an episode.
Oh yeah, trust me. uh, yeah. All right, so
Nice.
Steven.
Yeah, first topic, let's go.
All right, so Steven.
Yeah.
I know I'm well aware of the fact that you were homeschooled for a good portion of your life.
We keep coming back to this. It's always like, oh yeah, Steven, I know you were homeschooled, so you probably won't get this. You have to remember, I went to elementary school and part of middle school in public school. So I
I'm
know
gonna
what
talk
public
about that.
school's like. We already talked about in a past episode about how like elementary school is not the same thing as high school, at least as far as public school goes, but like I have public school elementary school experience, so like it's something.
Right. So here, let me ask you this. What are your memories for elementary school like when it relates to fire alarms?
I prepared a story specifically for this because so I don't know if it's just me. I feel like more people than me have got to have this because it can't just be me. But when you were in elementary school and you were like a young kid, think like second grade, first or second grade, even third grade, just kind of that lower grade range. Like you're not in preschool or kindergarten anymore. You're in grade school, but like you're still
You're still a dumb kid.
You're still a dumb kid, yeah. So at least at the elementary schools that I went to, I don't know if it's like this everywhere or if it's still like this today. But when I went to school and where I went to school, whenever there was going to be a fire drill, they would always announce it like sometime at the beginning of the day. They'd always come on the intercom early in the day, and they'd be like, "Hey, by the way, guys, we're gonna have a fire drill today." And then the rest of the day, like, because fire alarms are one of those.
Go ahead.
Fire alarms are one of those things where it's like it's not really that bad. It's not really all that scary because like you know what they're for, but like as an elementary school kid, they're kind of terrifying.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and
And what
so
makes it terrifying is how loud they are.
Yeah,
just
they're
like
quite loud. And also they make like a very specific sound, and I'm not going to go into details cuz otherwise this episode's going to be like 3 hours long, but there's like specific sound, like the sounds made by like tornado sirens for example, or like the national alerts like Amber Alerts if you've ever gotten those on your phone. Those sounds are actually crafted specifically to like hit a certain like neural brain response, something like that. Like there's certain sounds that trigger certain mental responses in humans, and I think fire alarms are one of those sounds. It's designed to kind of trigger an instinct like, oh, I need to get out of here. And so
right.
in addition to being loud, it's also that like nobody likes the sound. And I know different fire alarms also sound different as well, but anyway, in elementary school, at least for me, whenever they would like announce they were gonna have a fire drill, you would just be like sitting there the whole day, just like waiting for it to happen, and you wouldn't really be able to pay attention to anything at all.
Yeah, you couldn't pay attention to anything because, like, especially for someone like me, I'd always just be in class, just like.
Yeah, that would be me
What's
too.
gonna happen?
I would just always have like. I would do that exact same thing. So like, look, it's not just me.
Right.
I actually,
And me as well. So it's at least 2 people on Earth who go through this.
yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've even seen like memes on YouTube Shorts about it, where like there'll be like, hey, by the way, we're gonna have a fire drill today, and then like everybody's like, oh, okay, yeah, we know, we're expecting it, okay, and then it happens, and everybody just goes insane.
I thought the joke was gonna be like everyone's just super calm about it, and then like the person making the short is like the person who's like the POV shot is just like, how are y'all not freaked out about this? A loud sound is about to pierce our ears.
Yeah, they did the same thing for the I don't know if anybody, well, actually most everybody should know about this, but like a few, I think it was like a couple weeks ago, the government did like a test national alert thing. You remember that? So
Yeah.
I've actually seen memes on YouTube about that, where they would be shorts, and it was the government saying, hey guys, we're gonna do a test national alert, just know this is a test, it's to make sure our system's working, everything's gonna be fine, it's a test, okay? And then when it goes off, everybody's like, what's going on? Are you guys trying to kill us? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like that. Just like everyone loses their minds. It's just. You wanna know what's funny? I actually heard this. Apparently, there was some prisoners who like had their phones go off, and they ended up getting caught with them. Like when the national like test alarm went off.
That's the secret government plan. They're not trying to alert us to anything. They're just trying to catch prisoners to have their phones.
Clearly, they got their priorities straight. Glad to see.
Yes. Oh no, we could care less about the tornado that's about to hit. We just want to get some prisoners with their.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about fire alarms because I feel like that's just a part of early like school life where it's just like.
Yeah, it was
I
like,
feel each person has like different levels of fear, but I feel like everyone at least had some sort of fear of that fire alarm because like I can't imagine any like normal kid
like if you didn't, were you even an elementary school kid? Like I'm allowed to say that because I was in public school.
Right.
So before you go talking about me being homeschooled and how I don't know because I'm homeschooled, I did have public school experience.
That you've been to elementary school. I was going to bring that up. Don't think I don't know. But okay. All right. So that's fire alarms. They go burr. They go next burr. Topic.
So Will's notation for the topic on the script was literally just fire alarms be loud.
I should have written this: fire alarms go burr.
They do go burr.
I think that thing is super outdated and it's super cringy now, but
they scare the crap out of all the elementary school kids. Like you cannot tell me that you were in elementary school and you never had the experience of being scared of a fire alarm. That is a staple of being in elementary school.
Yeah, right. Anyways, for our next topic, Steven, you put this in. Would you like to introduce it?
So, I don't know if we may have talked about this before. I think we mentioned it briefly in the previous Gatorade versus Powerade discussion, but everybody knows that for pretty much any grocery item, there's always going to be like the one name brand. It's like the brand that everybody knows about. It's sold at all of the big retail stores like your Walmart and your Publix and your, the other, that kind of thing. And then there's always going to be like off brands or store brands that are basically the same thing but cheaper because they don't have the big branding. So,
right.
Will, what is your personal stance on the name brand versus off-brand groceries, concept? Like, where do you stand on that?
I'm not gonna lie. Back when I was a kid, like back when I was a kid, I was very picky eater, right? Like I didn't
Yeah.
like I had very like particular like how do I describe it? Like I didn't like a whole lot of things that I wasn't already familiar with. And when it came to off-brand items from grocery stores, I would always try to avoid them because I always thought that they were all going to be like terrible and just like not as good as the name brand. Like it doesn't have a branding that's like as popping as the off-brand, so automatically that makes
victim
it
to the
terrible.
marketing. He fell victim to the marketing.
As a kid, I fell victim to marketing, but hey, I'm a kid. Like, what do you expect me to do?
I expect you to have an IQ of 3,000 at 5 years old.
But nowadays it's just like, and I think it just goes with like stuff that's like costs cheaper in general. Just like I'm the type of person now who just like I still probably get the name brand version, but if I absolutely had to get off brand, I wouldn't really mind as much as I would have as a kid. But like it's just like yeah, the name brand's gonna cost more, but you gotta realize something. It's just like the name brand, and this is coming from someone who had like a very like average upbringing. I know a lot of people who had like not so middle class upbringing who had to live off of off brand because you know financial things. So take this as someone who never really had to go through that. You know, I'm not knocking anyone for liking off brand more. I'm just saying this is my personal like take on it. Just like I don't know. It's just something about it. Just like name brand. I'm always gonna try prefer, even though I know that off brand is probably gonna taste the same.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's the thing with my argument on it is, or my personal experience with name brand versus off brand, and the way it is, my family used to be a name brand family, until my mom started like buying off brand stuff because it was cheaper, and it's not that we were like a lower class family that needed to do that, but I mean saving money is always good, and my parents have always been, and my mom especially has always been big on saving money wherever possible, like even if you don't have to just to get by, like you know having more money to go around because you spend less in certain areas is just a good thing. But my experience with name brand versus off brand has been different depending on what kind of item it is. Because there's some name brand, there's some items where like the name brand is clearly superior, and the off brand, like you know, it's probably just made differently or something like that, and it's just like not
It has a
good.
very like different taste to it that you're not as used to. Therefore,
Exactly.
it like renders as like not as good to you, so you wouldn't want to like get.
So there's some items that are like that, but there's also some items that and I don't really want to use Gatorade versus Powerade as an example because they're kind of both name brands, but there are some things or some items where the name brand is either nearly indistinguishable from, or for the off brand rather, is nearly indistinguishable from the name brand, or in some cases I have found I actually prefer the off brand to the name brand. And those cases are not very common, but they do exist. But I mainly
one example that comes to mind automatically for me is when it comes to water, I typically always avoid name brands, especially Dasani. Like Dasani is like the worst like name brand thing ever, whereas like off brand is like automatically better because off brand just makes purified water. Dasani adds like a whole bunch of extra stuff to it. So that like apparently the stuff in it is like make you like thirstier after drinking it.
Oh, do they really do that? Yeah, I actually never thought of that.
Dasani is owned by the Coca-Cola company, so I expect them to add some additives to it, if you know what I mean.
That actually makes a lot of sense, and I cannot believe that I never thought of that before.
Right. But yeah, it's just like
something new every day.
It has this weird salty taste, even though it doesn't have like any salt in it. It somehow tastes salty.
It's like those minerals and stuff that they put in it. They do
Right,
that
the
a lot with bottled
minerals.
water. And what I was gonna say is like that's the reason why I just don't really like bottled water at all, no matter what brand it is, because I'm just not a fan of like the extra stuff that they put in it. I will take.
That's why I always
just
get the
plain.
off-brand, because the off-brand tends to put less stuff in it, making it more cheaper and also being
Yeah.
better for you.
But I will take like plain filtered tap water any day over bottled water.
Right. I mean,
But
tap water
that's
for
just
me,
been-
I would prefer bottled water over tap water, but it's just like bottled water that's just like purified, and it's just like it's just
Yeah.
like clean water, and they don't add anything else to it. It's just like
Yeah, and
you know
I
how
will also say, in my experience, I have found that there are like certain brands of bottled water that are more tolerable, I guess, than other brands. Like your example of Dasani is definitely one of the worst ones, and I think that some of the lesser known brands that I've had, like Publix brand, kind of comes to mind, are more tolerable in terms of being bottled water.
I will say, I also will say, when it comes to like expensive water, like have you ever had Fiji water?
No, I haven't. And I actually I that's a good point to bring up because I used to work at Publix, as most people probably know by this point, and I
Yeah,
never
you
got
mentioned it.
the point. I never got the point of all the like expensive waters. They say things like, it's alkaline, or they talk about how it's like from a specific place, or like the pH is at a certain level. But like in my opinion, just water is water. Like I can understand sparkling water because that's different. It's carbonated. But these expensive not quality, premium waters, like they're no different than regular water, I think.
I will say
So,
you do have somewhat of a point, but I will say I've had Fiji water before, and if you've like ever been like super thirsty, it the best way I can describe Fiji water is, even though I don't go out my way to get it often, it tastes kind of like how water tastes like at 3 a.m. when you're thirsty and you're like not super awake, but you still need something to drink, and like when that water hits, when it hits like that, that's kind of how Fiji water tastes. So I kind of get why it's expensive like that, but
it's
again, I
different.
wouldn't like go out my way to get like a pack of anything like that. It's just like every once in a
Yeah.
while I might get Fiji water just to get that 3 a.m. water type taste right there.
Yeah, kind of unrelated side note, but those premium waters also tend to come in like much bigger containers than your typical bottled water.
Right.
I don't know why
Like
it
smart
is,
water.
but yeah, like and Fiji is another good example too. Or like what's another good one? I don't know.
I feel like those are the big two. I feel like there's others out there, but I think when people
Yeah.
think about like overpriced water, Fiji and smart water usually come to mind first.
Yeah, and it kind of does make you wonder, like, how expensive a standard bottled water would be if it wasn't a container that big. But I don't think the price would go up that much.
Right, right. Um, so that's our take on off-brand, on-brand things. Moving on.
And now it's time for everybody's absolute favorite, the one and only, to whom it may concern, original Kanye segment.
So for today's Kanye segment, I have nothing planned as usual. I'm just gonna go.
Even though
of...
I put it on the list before, so that we would have time to come up with something. Ain't didn't.
Right. I'll say for Kanye segment is there's this one quote he has that always makes me laugh. It's like corny, but also like really, really cool. It's just like he was accepting an award, and he said something that went along the lines of, "Some people ask me, what would I do tonight if I would have lost? I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll
goes
never
wild.
know. That is something. That actually is pretty like genius of a thing to say. Like, what would you have do if you had lost? I guess we'll never know. I won, so I don't have to think about it.
And then years later, he lost billions due to saying anti-Semitic stuff. So I guess he did know in the end. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if football teams did that. What would you be doing in this situation if you had lost this game? I guess we'll never know.
That reminds me. It's funny you mentioned sports, but that reminds me of a funny. It's practically become a meme at this point. There was this NBA interview in like a locker room where someone's being interviewed. I forget what the basketball player name is, but an interviewer asked him something along the lines of, "Did the other team win or did y'all lose tonight?" And the other player
Ah,
just went
yes.
like, "What? What are you talking about, man?"
What are you talking about, man? Yeah.
I'm gonna send you that. I'm gonna put a clip on it right now, just to show, in case I remember to edit anything in this episode, rather than
I
just skim through
mean,
it before publishing it.
you're gonna have to. You gotta remove our technical difficulty,
Yeah.
or your
But
technical
anyway,
difficulty, I
that's
should say.
Kanye's segment. And all right.
Yes.
So for our
I
next
think that.
topic, okay. So I'm actually gonna remove this topic right here, and I'm gonna just move on to the next one.
Okay.
That you put.
All right. I actually did not prepare for this properly. It's fine. We're just gonna wing it. We talked about football earlier in terms of how Auburn kind of sucks at football.
They don't
But
kind of suck. They really suck.
okay, shut up, shut up. Just because they have no SEC wins. And the funny part is they've won all of their non-SEC games. They've only lost to SEC teams so far. But that leads right into the topic that we're going to talk about next, which is, and I don't know if Will's going to be super in on this because I know he's more of an NFL kind of person than a college football kind of person.
Right.
But the SEC, we already talked about what the SEC is, you know.
Right.
So, the SEC this season has been a little bit of a crazy kind of thing, at least from what it normally is. So, in football, or any sport really, you could say this about most teams, or most of the time you're going to know like how you expect a team to perform. Like, you know, this team is usually pretty good, or this team is usually kind of mid, or this team usually isn't that great. And I think that's usually a lot less of a thing in professional leagues where teams are usually kind of equal and like draft players from the same place, and it's kind of just luck of the draw on who's better. But in college
I'm gonna stop
sports,
you right there. That's not necessarily how it works. There are like a
I
hierarchy of teams
know,
that are better than others. Like
yeah,
there's some
yeah,
teams out there that just have not been doing all that well. Like they've just been doing really bad. And then there's been other teams that have been doing very mediocre. Like I hate to admit it, but Falcons are kind of a good example right now of teams that have just been very inconsistent. And then you have those teams out there that are been dominating for the past several years. But I will say it is a lot more luck of the draw type situation where it's just like every decade it's just going to have those teams that like shine more than
yeah,
usual, and then the next generation is going to have different teams.
yeah. And then it kind of works the same way in college football and college sports in general, but especially college football. There's like teams that historically do really well and teams that historically aren't that great. Like right now, a good example is Alabama. Alabama is one of the best teams, not only in the SEC, but in the entire college football league. Um, and it's been that way for the past few years. It wasn't always that way, but at least like for the past probably decade or so, if we were going to go by decades, Alabama has been one of the dominant teams in the league. Georgia is another good example. And I'm just naming SEC teams because I only really know about the SEC. I don't pay attention to college football outside of it. So what's special about the
Bias.
SEC this year is what?
Bias.
It's not bias, it's willful ignorance.
It's a bias.
Anyway, so what's special about the SEC this year is that the whole structure of teams like being historically good or being historically not that great has just been completely getting thrown out the window. And the other thing is, like, when you have a select group of teams that kind of play against each other in different games, you can kind of follow, like, a chain of victory. So you can be like, oh, this team beat this team, and then the team that they beat this team. So this, kind of like how I'm gonna use this as an example. So Alabama in the second week of the college football season lost to Texas, which is not an SEC team yet. But anyway, so Texas beat Alabama, so you could say Texas is a better team than Alabama. And then later on,
In that instance, they were a
okay,
better
no,
team.
it's for the
like,
example. It's for the example. So Texas for the example is a better team than Alabama. We could just like say that arbitrarily because they won. And then later on, Texas played like their big rivalry game against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma beat Texas. So you could say Oklahoma is a better team than Texas, and by extension, you could also say Oklahoma is a better team than Alabama because they beat a team that was able to beat Alabama. That's just an example. Obviously, you could put in any teams in that chain, but that's what I kind of mean by chains of like teams being better than each other by extension, even if they haven't played. Generally, you can kind of like it doesn't always work like that, but generally you can kind of follow those chains. Not this year in the SEC. Absolutely not this year. Because
you mean to tell me it's actually unpredictable and it's actually exciting to watch now because it is so unpredictable?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
And that's the thing, because it usually isn't like that. Like it is sometimes, but it's usually not like that as much as it has been this year. Because this year has just been like, so I'm gonna name off a few games, and if anyone's not familiar with the SEC, you're probably not gonna know what I'm talking about. But I'm just gonna name off a few games in the list. So obviously in week 2 we had Alabama losing to Texas, which
Tragic,
like I
absolutely
said,
tragedy right there.
Texas isn't even an SEC team. They are going to be coming to the SEC next year, so I mean it's not really that bad. But like I said, Alabama's one of the dominant teams in this conference and in the entire league. So the fact that they lost in week 2 to a team that wasn't part of their conference is kind of significant. And people like to joke about the fact that
I will say it is, again, college is kind of similar to a professional where it's just like luck of the draw. Like it's very possible that even though Alabama is the dominating school, it is possible to have like a year where you get a new batch of players that just aren't as good as previous years, like new batch of players. Like that's something you gotta consider.
It kind of seems like that's what happened this year. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of the game that started it all. So, and then from Alabama lost to Texas, and then we had we had Florida, which is an SEC team that generally isn't really that good, beating Tennessee, which is another one of the more dominant SEC teams, which is something that like I said, Tennessee is one of the teams that you're gonna have to bear with me here because I was supposed to prepare for this and I didn't, so I'm kind of just making it up as I go here. Um, but Tennessee is usually one of the better teams in the SEC, and Florida is usually not. But Florida beat Tennessee in Week 3, which, like I said, it does vary. It is luck of the draw, kind of like Will said, but Florida beating Tennessee is not something that you would generally expect to see. And then we had Arkansas lose to BYU, which is one of the lesser known teams that. So you have like your major teams that are part of major conferences, and then you have like your lesser known teams that are part of lesser known conferences. And generally, the more well known teams that are usually historically better are expected to win over the lesser known teams that are generally not as good. Now, obviously, that doesn't always happen, but I'm saying expected because they kind of, most of the time, people see those teams as like easy.
Well, here's the
really
thing about those
depends.
teams. Here's the thing about those teams. You keep talking about how they're expected to win. Being the team that's just expected to win, if you become too complacent in where you are and you
Yeah,
don't try as hard, that's going to leave other teams working harder to like beat those teams that become complacent in how good
yeah.
they supposedly are. So that I think that might be something that's just been going on in this year.
Yeah, and I think that is what it is, and that probably is what's mainly contributing to this whole like craziness. Um, anyway, so after that, we also had Kentucky, which is one of those teams that's like they're part of the SEC, but like they're one of the less dominant teams in the SEC. Beat Florida, and this is where I reference one of those like chains kind of things because Florida has beaten Tennessee, which is one of the better teams, and now Florida has beaten Tennessee, and so now Kentucky's beaten Florida. So you could say Kentucky has by extension like on top of Tennessee like in standings, which is again not something that you would normally expect to see. We had Ole Miss beat LSU, which is actually not really all that surprising. But then you also have to consider what happened with Ole Miss in the Auburn game. Auburn is a team that is absolutely terrible this year, and Ole Miss only managed to beat them by one score. And here they beat LSU. And LSU, in the week before the Ole Miss game, beat Auburn by a landslide. I think it was like 30 plus points that they beat them by. So you would think that Ole Miss would be able to beat them by even more since they had beat LSU, but Ole Miss actually struggled against Auburn. Um, and then after that, again, I didn't prepare. After
I
that,
feel like you can
Missouri.
go on and on, but I feel like we get the I kind of get the point of how just
Yeah,
like crazy a lot of the games this year
yeah.
have been.
That's
I feel like
that's
it is
that's
going to
kind
be a
of
very memorable year for college football fans, just like how unpredictable it was. And I think it's good
yeah.
that there's a bit of unpredictability because I feel like that adds a new spark of excitement in
Yeah, the last one
college
I
football
wanted to
space.
mention, the last one I wanted to mention was Missouri because Missouri's particularly significant. They're an SEC team, but they're one of the teams that's like so bottom tier in the conference that they kind of get joked about a lot, um, because they usually are not that great, and they
Kind of
were
like a
undefeated.
similar team that has orange and blue colors.
Shut up. Auburn's been Auburn has had more good years than Missouri has, I think, and probably Missouri fans are gonna murder me for that for saying that. But I mean, all two of you,
Everyone,
so you
boo
know.
this man! Boo! I say that not even
So,
being a Missouri fan.
but yeah, but Missouri, like I said, is so bottom tier in the league that they are like the joke of the league. Like people, the teams
They're
have Missouri
basically
in their
like the
schedule.
Cleveland Browns of college teams. They're just like
I
they get
guess.
joked on and memed on because
Yeah,
of
it's
how bad
basically
they
that.
usually
Yeah.
are.
It's like the teams see Missouri in their schedule and they're like, oh, easy win. It's kind of like that. But Missouri was undefeated up until week 6, where they barely lost to LSU, and that is actually the only loss that they have taken so far. They beat Kentucky, which I will remind you is the team that that is considered better than Tennessee because they beat Florida, who beat Tennessee. Now Missouri has beat Kentucky, so we have Missouri. Like, if you follow the chain, you could say Missouri is by extension better than Tennessee. The longer the chain gets, the less accurate it's going to be, but you could say that. That's not something that you would expect to see again. And then Tennessee lost to Alabama, which Alabama's been struggling.
Oh yeah, they have. They've definitely been struggling.
They've been struggling a lot this year and not really being as dominant as they usually are. But they still managed to beat Tennessee, and that could
we
really
used to rule the world.
Yeah, that could be a morale thing because Alabama and Tennessee is like a really big rivalry, and so the fans and the players were probably like super hyped up, and it was played in Alabama as well, so home field.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm not gonna go any further. I'm not gonna bore you guys by just reading.
I feel like all our non-football fans listening to this are just like they've just completely tuned out of everything Steven's just been saying. Just
viewer retention dropping by the second.
Man, you hate to see it.
Yeah,
so let's move on to our last topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm not gonna bore you guys by just reading off standings, but my point being, like, it's been an interesting year, and I just thought about pointing that out because I've been since I'm in college now, I've been following the college football scene more than I usually do, and looking at how teams are doing and stuff like that. It's just been interesting, so that's kind of all I had to say on that. There's no real point to be made here. I just felt like bringing that up.
Football games go burr.
Yes, football games go burr.
I feel like I am going to unironically make that the title, even though it's cringe. I'm just going to put it in there. Will's Wi-Fi go burr.
Steven bores the audience by talking about college football standings for 10 minutes.
Alright, here's our final topic, and it's a topic that's a little irrelevant, but I feel like it's still important to talk about. Alright, so Steven, I have to assume by what you said earlier, or like typed earlier, that you're not familiar with the YouTuber Kwebbelkop.
So I saw this on the outline, and I actually did go do a quick Google search just to kind of see. I managed to find out that it's a YouTube channel, and apparently there's some kind of controversy around it, but that's basically all that I know. So enlighten me.
So Kwebbelkop is a YouTuber who has 15 million subscribers. He's kind of in the same lane as like Jelly and like other YouTubers like that. They're basically just people who play GTA 5 and like other games like that, Roblox, all that stuff. And
so like Let's Play.
Kwebbelkop has recently developed an AI. Yeah, we're talking about AI again, believe it or not. And essentially what Kwebbelkop is doing. Essentially what Kwebbelkop is doing, he has like a AI system to make videos for him. So he has like a AI avatar, and he has like AI voice and AI script and AI gameplay, just like AI everything to make content for him.
So does he himself actually do anything, or is like the AI just making every single part of the video automatically?
Basically, it's just like the AI making every single thing about the video. And it's just like Kwebbelkop not having any human interaction in any of the videos. Like, if you go to any of his videos now, you'll see just like...
He's created the YouTube equivalent of ChatGPT.
Kinda, yeah. If you go to any of his recent videos, you'll see just like a lot of them will be like very AI-ish. I feel like, hold on, let me look at this again.
I didn't.
Like I said, this is kind of outdated, so he might have gone back to like real life. because this video right here kind of looks real, but at the same time, I haven't done a whole lot of research outside of what I already learned like a few weeks ago. Like our whole thing over at Two Make Concern is tackling topics that are like weeks outdated.
Yeah, kind of like how we said.
Yeah, if you go to any of his recent videos, you'll see like this very uncanny like avatar of him that looks very realistic, but it doesn't talk quite right. It doesn't look quite right, and it's all AI generated.
I feel like that's always gonna be a problem with AI, and it's definitely a topic that like gets discussed a lot in the AI like conversation and controversy, I guess. Like AI is cool and all, and it's very helpful, and it does a lot of great and helpful things, but like it's people are saying like, you know, AI is going to take over the world and like people are going to become irrelevant. That's just not true, because AI is never going to reach the same level as human intelligence. Like there are certain things that it's very good at doing, but there are certain things that it's super not good at doing. And that it's right. like you said, like, you know, with the Kwebbelkop thing, the AI can make a good impression of like, you know, being almost accurate, but like, you know, there's things that are off and it's like not quite right.
But here's my main question about it. Like, it's obvious that like AI, at least for the time being, is not, and you can also make the very legitimate argument that's never going to be able to fully capture humanity. At least it shouldn't be able to do that, because that's a very scary thought right there.
Well, it's not going to be able to, and I can tell you why. Because the way that computers work now, that with binary like ones and zeros, the way that computers work now, it's everything can be boiled down to a series of ones and zeros, and there may be a lot of ones and zeros, and them working, you know, very fast. Nowadays, CPUs are performing like trillions of operations per second. So they're very fast and doing a lot, but at the end of the day, it's still all ones and zeros, and there is a hypothetical limitation to like what kind of stuff computers, and by extension AI, are able to do. And there are just things like computers can simulate human type things, like, you know, the ability to think logically, the ability to improvise, the ability to like feel emotion and stuff like that. Computers can simulate that, but they're never going to be 100% accurate, and it's always going to be, like you said, just off.
I feel like all this people know already, so let's not bore them with that. But here's the main question I want to ask you, and this is kind of getting to like the morality, I guess you can say, about it. But here's my main question. Kwebbelkop is somewhat of like a YouTuber for like kids to watch, like kids who are like Roblox or Minecraft and stuff like that. Like, they watch these videos. But basically, what I want to ask is, do you think it's worth it using this technology to create a fake, kind of like a fake element to it, where there's not really much humanity in video making for children? Because if you really think about it, kids shows on TVs kind of work like that, where it's like actors come in, but they're not projecting themselves, but they're projecting a character. And this is kind of what's also happening, where it's like a YouTuber creates a character of themselves and like put it in an AI and like push it out there for kids to watch. And it's like, if it gets the job done, do you think it's worth it for like him to like, I don't know, am I making sense right now?
Well, yeah, you're making sense. Like, I think it's just like that, like getting the job done, because you gotta realize, like, those YouTube videos are purely for entertainment purposes. And I feel like kids being dumb and stupid, and no offense to the kids out there, but you guys are dumb and stupid, I'm sorry. Kids being the dumb and stupid people that they are, and they probably can't really tell the difference between like a real person and the AI, especially if it's very close and very well simulated. Like, obviously a person with experience.
Well, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say this, like, I remember back when I was a kid and I was watching all these YouTubers, and what intrigued me so much and what entertained me so much about all these like past YouTubers who like made Minecraft content and stuff like that is how they were like a bunch of friends getting together to like make content, and they would all work off of each other, and they would all like even the video that featured one person, he would always like the person would always like have these very human moments that would always be either really funny or like really shocking or something like that. I feel like with this AI, I don't think that kids are being allowed to experience that anymore. Everything just feels super like artificial. And I think
But
that's gonna like
what you have to consider is like that's true. You're right, but it's like what you said earlier. Like maybe the Quibblecop doesn't like properly convey the human factor that you talked about, but kids are kids and they're going to be entertained. They're very easy to entertain. So even if it's not quite on the level of like real YouTubers and like you said, groups of friends and stuff like that, the AI generated stuff might just be good enough. And it's like you said earlier, it might get the job done.
Right, but it's just like I don't know. I just feel like
I think there's not really much of a moral argument. It's not really wrong.
I'm not saying it's like bad per se. I'm not saying it's gonna like ruin them or it's like they shouldn't be watching it. But I'm just saying like if I was a kid seeing these videos and if I would be watching them and I would notice. I feel like even me as a kid would notice something off. Even if I couldn't explain why, I could notice something, and then I'd probably not want to watch it and might want to go to someone else who's like.
The question is like, cause the question is like if he really was that bad at like and everybody looked at him and didn't. They said like, oh yeah, this is AI generated. I don't like it. I'm gonna go watch somebody else. His viewers. Yeah, see,
that's another thing about it too. A lot of people have been giving him a lot of backlash for it, and all of his comments are just filled with people saying like, "Bro, we know this is AI. Stop doing this. This is stupid." And I feel like that is a big distraction to the point where even his core audience is able to recognize that like.
Yeah.
Being AI is really pointless when you could very easily just like be the person to like entertain. If like if you're not gonna do that, then what's the point?
But I feel like even in the face of that, like as long as it's being entertaining and as long as it's doing like what it set out to do, then it's still just another channel out there on YouTube to watch and be entertaining, regardless of whether it's AI generated or not. And like if they want to go watch somebody else, then that's fine, but obviously the YouTube channel's like viewer count and subscriber count and their overall success as a YouTuber has thoroughly proven the fact that like the AI thing kind of works still and people still watch it, and that's all that the YouTube algorithm really cares about, is that people are watching it. And as if you're monetizing based off of like ad revenue or something like that, then viewer count and viewer time is really all that matters. And so as long as you are being entertaining enough to retain viewers, then you're accomplishing what you set out to do by creating a YouTube channel.
Oh no, I still think that like it should just be like you should just make content, like not having to rely on AI to do it for you. Like even if theoretically it did give you like a bunch of views and it was like easier, like I feel like so many people have just like called out how like this is all AI and it's not real. I feel like so many people have called it out to the point where it's like, and it's like I'm looking at his channel right now. And it's like he's already someone who's kind of been falling off a little bit in terms of views, but like now it's just like looking. If you were to look at it, it'd probably be like you could tell it's like an all-time low. Meanwhile, you go to the comments and it's just all talking about this AI and how they don't like the fact that he's using this AI. So I don't.
And like maybe he is falling off because of that. And I'm not saying.
I just wanted to like. talk about this, just to talk about how
Yeah.
like
I'm not
even
saying
if you can tell
I'm not
it's
saying that
AI,
he
should
couldn't.
you like? And I
Yeah,
feel like right
I'm
now
not.
we're at a point where AI just isn't good enough to like be able to be on par with like what humans can make entertainment wise.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's what
so,
what I'm saying.
right,
Like, I'm not saying that he couldn't make better content by being there himself and not using AI, and that AI isn't the best content he can make. But like I said, as long as it's getting the job done and being entertaining and good enough, then you know I mean, if he's starting to fall off because people don't like it, then that's his loss, I guess. And he either needs to come back and not use AI so that he can start making better content and get people back on board, or else his channel might just die off. I don't know. I don't really pay
right,
attention to this kind of thing, so I'm not really all that like I'm not the best person to talk about this. So
right. But I
that's
still,
just my that's just my take on the
right,
morality, I guess.
yeah. And that's a interesting take, and I appreciate your input on it. And yeah, we've run out of topics. That's the end of the episode. Do you want to add
Yeah.
anything else, Steven? I think we've been
I
going on
think I
for
think
a very long
I think
time.
the
I would like to get off.
I think the AI YouTube discussion does kind of relate to something kind of just personal. The past few days, have you seen on YouTube the type of videos where people use AI voice engines to make the U.S. president voices and then just have them do
Yes,
various
yes.
things?
I've
I've been
seen
watching
those.
I've been watching a bunch of those. Just
That's an example
for
of using AI to make stuff that's actually kind of funny. Like I'll say that.
yeah.
It's just I think it's just the more just how AI is used.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like AI is great. It's great and it's very helpful and it does amazing things and it can, it can bring our total level of output, our total level of I don't know what the word is, but basically it can be used to make us better and help, better us in life. It's
but
just a
it's just
matter
all
of
about how we apply it and how we use it. It's just
yeah, it's a matter of what you're using it for and how you're putting it into practice. Because there are some
yeah,
things that AI is great at, and there's some things that AI is really bad at and shouldn't be used for.
right. But yeah, that's we're talking in circles at this point. Basically, it's just
Yeah.
that's our opinions on AI. So, anyways, I think we've been going long enough. I'm about to explode from insanity, as you do. And as
Lovely.
always, please like and subscribe for another
For
episode
another
of To
episode.
Whom It May Concern.